On the eve of the college entrance exam, the transfer student Marco had fallen for was mad at him again, all because of one sentence, "I don't want to see her." So he asked me to transfer schools. 10 high isn't that bad. Once she cools off, I'll ask you to come back. Don't make this harder for me, Selena. I nodded and agreed, packed up my things, ready to leave. One of his close friends tried to persuade him. Did you forget Selena has a hearing disability? Sending her to a new school alone, what if she gets bullied? You two grew up together. You used to really like her. Can you really bring yourself to kick her out? Marco raised an eyebrow. That was the past. The girl next door never beats the mysterious new girl. Don't you know? Besides, I'll bring her back in 3 months, tops. 3 months later, when Marco called to ask me to return, a reckless boy by my side leaned close to my hearing aid and laughed softly. Baby, close your eyes when we kiss. And no answering calls from random guys. All right? Chapter 1. The day our mock exam results came out, I rose from 5th to 3rd place in the grade. Melissa, meanwhile, dropped from 20th to somewhere past 30th. Someone commented, "How did Melissa fall that much?" And Selena actually moved up 2 spots. Melissa's eyes instantly turned red. She glanced at me. Happy now, Selena? You studied so hard every day just to make people think Marco made the wrong choice picking me, didn't you? Then she ran out of the classroom. Even when the bell rang, she hadn't come back. The confused teacher asked me, as class president, to go look for her. Half an hour later, I found her sitting by the flower bed next to the basketball court. In front of her was Marco, bent over and coaxing her in a soft voice. I didn't know what he said, but Melissa suddenly smiled through her tears. Sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a golden glow over them like the lead couple in a school drama. When Marco saw me, he narrowed his eyes, maybe to stand up for Melissa. He tossed a basketball toward me, and accidentally hit my hearing aid. A sharp buzz rang in my ears. After that, I could hear nothing at all in my left ear. Marco clearly didn't expect that. A flicker of surprise flashed in his eyes, then vanished. He walked toward me. Selena, you should transfer. Melissa has a temper. Because of you, she's always upset with me. Just a month ago, he had asked me, Selena, after the exam, will you be my girlfriend? The college entrance exam was near. I instinctively wanted to refuse, but Marco said, Selena, don't make this difficult for me. As long as you're here, Melissa won't be happy. You wouldn't want to cause trouble for your dad, right? My father worked for Marco's family's company. Because of Melissa, he threatened me with my dad's job. I knew my father had worked for them since he was 22. Now he was 45. I couldn't let him lose everything in middle age because of me. All right. Marco looked relieved. Once she cools off, I'll bring you back. Melissa must have overheard. She walked over and tugged Marco's hand. Spoiled and smug. Marco, I think 10 high is just fine. 10 high was the lowest ranked school in Haiching. Marco knew that, but he just gave a careless smile. All right. If you say so. I clenched the shattered pieces of my hearing aid in my palm. They dug deep into my flesh. It hurt, but that pain kept me from crying. A long while later, I threw the broken hearing aid into a trash bin. Then I turned and walked away. Chapter 2. Marco quickly arranged for my transfer paperwork. The whole school knew I was changing schools. As I packed my things, people whispered around me, no way. Is Marco really kicking Selena out just for Melissa? Weren't they childhood sweethearts? Ugh. Like they say, the girl next door can't compete with the new girl. Marco used to treat Selena so well, but ever since Melissa showed up, he's never walked home with her again. Such a shame. Selena's grades are amazing. She had a real shot at getting into Tsinghua or Peking University. Transferring now is going to be a huge blow. I heard she's going to 10 high. That place is notorious for troublemakers. If she goes there, all her hard work over the years might go down the drain. Under everyone's sympathetic gaze, I carried my things and got ready to leave. As I reached the stairwell, I overheard Marco's friend trying to talk sense into him. Did you forget Selena has a hearing impairment? What if she gets bullied at her new school? You two grew up together. You used to like her so much. Are you seriously okay with sending her away? Marco leaned casually against the wall. letting out a small laugh. Why wouldn't I be? That was the past. Childhood friends can't beat a faded love, haven't you heard? Besides, I'll bring her back in 3 months anyway. Just as he said that, it was like he sensed something. He lifted his head and saw me standing at the top of the stairs. His gaze fell on my slightly swollen ear. He frowned. Then, instinctively, he stepped forward and grabbed my hand. Come on, I'll take you to get a new hearing aid. Consider it my compensation. I shook my head. No need. That hearing aid was a gift from you in the first place. Now we're even. The moment he broke my hearing aid, and that sharp pain pierced my ear, I made up my mind. I didn't want anything to do with Marco ever again. Chapter 3. Marco froze. That hearing aid had been a birthday gift for me on my 17th birthday. His family never encouraged lavish spending, and Marco never had much allowance. He had worked a part-time job for 2 months over the summer to buy that hearing aid, spending every last bit of his savings just for me. Back then, 17-year-old Marco had quietly placed the hearing aid on me while I was asleep. When I woke up, tears streaming down my face in surprise, he'd panicked and scrambled to comfort me. Marco had treated me well, so well that his mother often said she wanted me as her daughter-in-law. And Marco, grinning with pride, would reply, "Do you even need to say it? I've raised my wife all these years. You think I'm raising her for someone else?" Everyone was convinced we'd go to college together, fall in love, and get married. Marco had lived next door with his grandfather since we were little. We grew up together. He woke me up every morning and carried my backpack to school. He confessed to me, and I said yes with a blushing smile. But everything changed when Melissa showed up. She arrived as a transfer student, and from the moment Marco sat beside me and stared at her for a long while, I knew something had changed. Sure enough, Marco and Melissa grew closer and closer. He stopped walking to school with me. The back seat of his bicycle, the spot that used to belong to me, was now Melissa's throne. Even when I started keeping my distance, Melissa still didn't like me. She accused me of studying hard just to make people think Marco had made the wrong choice. Eventually, even Marco began to believe it. He grew disgusted with me. He held Melissa's hand and, in front of the whole class, scolded me for being manipulative. Melissa cried and claimed I had no boundaries and was getting between them. But the truth was, Marco and I had grown up together. He had confessed to me. He had told me, after the college entrance exam, "Let's be together." And yet, Marco stood there in silence, without a word to defend me. That was the moment my heart turned cold. I thought that by staying away from Marco, things would finally settle down. Until today. Marco opened his mouth, as if to say something, but across from him, Melissa said, "Marco, let's go. Let's head back." He looked at me once, and then walked away. Chapter 4. Back home, Dad carefully brought up the idea of quitting his job to start his own small business. He cautiously asked for Mom's and my opinion. If I start a business, things won't be as stable as they are now, and we're not exactly well off. I'm thinking of selling this apartment and buying a smaller one in the suburbs. What do you both think? Mom frowned. Maybe it's not the right time. Selena's about to start college, and after that, we'll need to prepare a dowry for her wedding. What if we're not young anymore? They both knew about what happened between Marco and me. Over the years, even though many people had tried to poach my dad from Marco's family's company, he never considered leaving, because Marco was an only child. My dad felt especially responsible, taking his work more seriously than anyone, and didn't dare to quit. Dad pressed his lips together. "Yeah, you're probably right." Then, I suddenly cut him off. "Dad, I support you starting your own business." I knew how capable he was. He had experience, had worked in the field for years, and had all the right connections. Because of my grandparents' health issues, our family hadn't been able to save much over the years. This must be something he'd wanted for a long time and had thought it through thoroughly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought it up at all. Do what you really want to do. Dad's eyes turned red. Mom added with a smile, "You've really grown up. Selena, go for it." Then, once the decision was made, Mom immediately contacted a real estate agent. The apartment was old, but located in the city center, with Dad offering a fair price. The contract was signed quickly, The new owner agreed to let us stay a few more days. After work, Mom and Dad went house hunting in the suburbs every day, until the day of my birthday. Mom came home early and asked me to deliver a few pieces of birthday cake to Marco's family. I hesitated, but under her urging, I walked to Marco's front door. She didn't know that it was Marco who had forced me to transfer. After all, Marco had told everyone that I chose to leave. She didn't approve, of course, but when she saw the official transfer letter already processed, she just sighed and said no more. Chapter 5. Marco's mom was the one who answered the door. When she saw me, she looked genuinely happy. Selena, you're here. My mom asked me to bring over some birthday cake. Just as I finished speaking, I heard playful laughter coming from Marco's room. It was Melissa's voice. Sure enough, the door opened and Melissa stepped out in a tiny summer skirt, looking casual and carefree. Marco's mom looked awkward. Selena, she's the girl Marco brought home. I knew what she meant, and quickly shook my head. It's okay, Auntie, I've delivered the cake. I'll be heading off now. Without waiting for a reply, I turned and walked away. As I left, I heard Marco's mom scolding him. Marco, that was really out of line. Didn't you used to like Selena? You're going to break her heart like this. Selena must be really upset. Followed by Marco's lazy reply. Let her be. The next morning, my parents and I moved into our new place with help from the movers. Because of our limited budget, my dad chose a well-kept second-hand apartment. Coincidentally, it was very close to 10 High. Chapter 6. The day I started at 10 High, I declined my parents' offer to accompany me. I knew Dad was just starting his business and had his hands full, so I walked there alone with my backpack. The homeroom teacher was a chubby, balding man who beamed at me as soon as he saw me. When we reached the classroom door, the noise inside was deafening, because I couldn't hear in my left ear. My right ear had become extra sensitive. I didn't know who it was, but someone suddenly threw a chair, and the crash made me jump. The teacher gave me a reassuring smile. Don't worry, wait here a sec. Then he walked in with hands on his hips and bellowed, Everyone, quiet down. No one listened. His face turned red. Or I'll call your parents. That finally worked. The class fell silent. Today, we have a new transfer student joining us. I walked in and stood at the front of the class. Hi everyone, I'm Selena. The class erupted. She's so pretty. Quick, is my hair okay today? From the back corner of the room, someone grumbled impatiently. So noisy. Suddenly, the entire room fell quiet. I was a bit surprised. The teacher rubbed his temples, then pointed to the seat in front of the boy who'd spoken. Sit there. I hesitated. The teacher added, Don't worry. That kid doesn't hit girls. Me? He hits people? So aggressive. Chapter 7. My deskmate was a girl who introduced herself cheerfully. I'm Linda, but everyone calls me pretty girl. Just call me that. I nodded. The teacher came in, and I quickly pulled out my textbook. The pace at 10 High was definitely different from that at No. 1 High School. During class, most students were doing their own thing. Some slept. Some read novels. Others did their nails. Paper airplanes with cheat sheets flew over my head. The teacher seemed used to it. After sipping a few sips of tea, she picked up her book again. Where was I? I gently reminded her. Question 3. She nodded. Right. Then looked at me in shock. Someone actually listens to me? It wasn't until Linda told me that I realized. If 10 High was considered a bad school, then class 13, where I now was the worst of the worst. It gathered all the underachievers in the entire senior year. Apparently, when I transferred, the homeroom teacher cried and begged the principal to assign me to her class. I looked at Linda eating ice cream during class. And for the first time, I felt the world was so absurd, and yet oddly full of life. After that, the teacher clearly got more enthusiastic in her teaching. Gradually, a few more students were influenced and started paying attention. Until school ended, everyone rushed out at once. I noticed the boy in the corner was still asleep. The school gates were about to close. I walked over and gently said, Hey, class is over. He raised his head and slowly opened his eyes. Narrow eyes locked straight onto me. with a high-bridged nose and slightly curved thin lips. Thanks, wifey. Me. This guy's not just scary, he calls people wifey the first time he sees them? The next second, the boy stood up. Only then did I realize he was even taller than Marco, who was 6 feet 1 inch. He didn't explain himself. With long fingers, he casually hooked his jacket by the collar and flung it over his shoulder. Come on, the school gates are about to close. I snapped out of it and answered, okay. Then followed him. Chapter 8. The boy had a tall, striking figure, with one hand casually resting on a black bicycle. He stood there like part of the scenery. One by one, people nearby turned to look at him. He didn't seem to care, as if he was already used to the attention. I deliberately slowed my pace to put some distance between us, only to realize he slowed down too. The setting sun cast a golden light ahead of him, and his long shadow landed right at my feet. He turned his head and looked at me. Hey, classmate. Even a snail's faster than you. Me? Wow, he's that familiar already? On our way back, I realized he lived in the same neighborhood as I did. He noticed too, the corners of his lips curling upward. Later, I learned from Linda that his name was Joel, the infamous school tyrant of 10 High. Rumor had it that whenever he walked into the cafeteria, a group of boys would follow behind him calling him Dad. Me, is this a gangster movie? At lunch, I saw it for myself. A bunch of boys followed Joel into the cafeteria, waving his meal card like it was a winning lottery ticket. Joel bro, I'm out of allowance this month. Lend me a hand. Same here, Dad. You're the best dad ever. Joel seemed to notice my gaze, glanced over lazily, and muttered, get lost. But he still handed over the meal card. And just like that, the group of boys scattered instantly. So that's what calling him Dad meant. Chapter 9. A few days later, our homeroom teacher announced a buddy tutoring program. The rule was simple. Top student helps bottom student. Second best helps second worst. And so on. All right, let's start assigning partners. We'll begin with Selena. Who's last place in the class? Last place? A boy up front quickly stood up to raise his hand, but someone else rose behind him. Voice cool and steady. Me. The first boy turned around. Come on, Joel bro. Don't joke. You beat me by 2 points last time. Teacher, I'm the real bottom here. Class president. Help me out. A few days ago, the teacher had appointed me class president. Joel shot him a glance. I cheated last time. The boy slumped back down in defeat, grumbling. You cheated just to beat me by 2 points? Seriously? Me. Chapter 10. While tutoring Joel, I realized that he barely answered anything on the last exam, but then I asked him to complete a practice test. And the result? Almost a perfect score. So why was he ranked last? I looked through his other papers. Right, his liberal arts subjects were a total disaster. Like, completely lopsided. After I explained a few questions, he understood them right away. People good at math really are gifted. I felt a little jealous. After all, I'd been doing extra homework since elementary school, barely played on weekends. And ever since getting into No. 1 high school, I'd been studying late into the night. When I got sleepy, I'd splash my face with cold water just to keep reviewing the day's lessons. But him? I'd only explained a few things and he could already apply them flexibly. After a while, I noticed Joel had a great memory, but his writing skills, not so great. So I broke it down for him step by step. Try using more rhetorical devices and idioms. Expand the details. After a pause, he leaned lazily against the desk behind him. Eyebrows raised. For example, just make up a sentence using a few idioms, anything works. He chuckled softly. Okay, like, earlier, both me and the class president were lying on the desk, fast asleep. If I add some idioms, I looked at him expectantly. The early summer heat was rising. I sipped some juice my mom had brought over. He looked straight at me, eyes dark and gleaming. Earlier, the class president and I were entwined in passionate slumber. Pfft. I nearly spat out my juice. Chapter 11. There were only 2 weeks left until the college entrance exam. We were practically taking mock tests every single day. The atmosphere was tense. Our homeroom teacher turned the last self-study period into free time. Linda leaned over my desk. After the college exam, I'll be separated from my dream guy. They say it's exam season, but it's really just crush breakup season. I suddenly remembered the time we passed by the sports field and she pointed out her dream guy to me. A guy with glasses thicker than beer bottles. Always carrying a book wherever he went. Linda had brought him a bottle of water, and he had only glanced at her before saying, "Just give up." Linda, I'd never date someone at the bottom of the class rankings. I was about to comfort her, but she just looked love-struck. As expected of my cold and distant academic god, he's so heartless. I love it. Me, has the school clinic not done vision tests in a while? Linda's taste really needs help. Then she turned to me. Selena, do you want to fall in love? Love. My pen paused mid-stroke. Behind me, someone's breath brushed against the back of my neck, as if they were waiting for my answer too. I shook my head. Falling in love? I'd rather do another full mock test. That night, Joel sent me a message. Mock test. Mock test, all you ever talk about is mock tests. Is it more handsome than me? Does it have abs? Attached, a picture of his dripping wet abs. Smooth, fair skin, sharply defined muscles. Then, 3 messages were withdrawn right after. Me? Chapter 12. The next day after school. Joel couldn't hold back and cornered me in a small alley nearby. Selena, let's talk after the college entrance exam. Talk about what? He leaned in close, staring straight at me. Dating. So he did like me. I pressed my lips together. No. Why not? You only scored 3 points on your last essay. He ruffled his hair, looking pitiful. So what? He had long legs and a defined jawline. I smirked. If you can score the average on tomorrow's mock essay, I'll consider it. Joel gritted his teeth. Fine. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out and accidentally answered the call while swiping. Marco's voice came through the earpiece. Selena, pack your things. You're returning to no one high tomorrow. That superior, condescending tone, as if all he had to do was say it. And I'd obediently pack my things and go back with a smile. I frowned, just as I was about to hang up. A voice whispered near my hearing aid. Baby, you're supposed to close your eyes when you kiss. Also, don't answer random guys' calls. Marco's voice instantly turned sharp. Who are you? Selena, come back before I change my mind. I looked up at Joel's cocky, relaxed face, and said nothing, just replied, no, I'm fine here at 10 high. Marco let out a bitter laugh. Selena, now's really not the time to mess with me. You really plan to stay at a place like 10 high until the exam? Wasn't your dream to get into Tsinghua or Peking University? So, he did know. He knew what my dream was. He also knew 10 high had poor resources. But even so, he had forced me to transfer back then. Now, with the exam so close, he wanted me back like nothing happened? I hung up the call and blocked his number. Chapter 13. When Marco called again, all he got was a message from the service provider. Selena had blocked him. It had been over 3 months since he last saw her. No one reminded him to eat breakfast anymore. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Even when he was with Melissa, he often found himself turning around. But the figure that used to follow him everywhere was gone. He told himself it was just nostalgia. They'd grown up together. The sudden separation felt strange. That's all. He didn't think too deeply about it. Still, every night after school, he would stop under Selena's apartment building, only leaving once he saw the light in her room turn on. She was just angry, he thought. 10 high started later than no 1 high. And in over 3 months, he hadn't once run into her. But the voice he heard on the phone earlier, that boy's voice, still nagged at him. Then he reassured himself. Selena liked him. When he confessed, she had blushed and nodded yes. They'd grown up together. He knew her. She was conservative, disciplined, old-fashioned. No way she'd start dating someone at a school like 10 high, much less kiss someone. She was just pretending, just trying to make him jealous. That thought calmed him a bit. Still, he walked to her building again. And only when he saw her shadow behind the curtain did he finally feel at ease. Chapter 14. After the mock exam ended. Joel cornered me in the equipment room. Average score. I saw it. Only after the college entrance exam. No dating before then. The real exam was just around the corner. He nodded and agreed. In the days that followed, our study hours grew longer and longer. Joel didn't bother me again. But every morning, a bottle of milk would appear on my desk. And every evening on my way home, he would follow behind, not too far, not too close. Then came the day when the countdown on the blackboard was finally erased. The college entrance exam had arrived. After returning home from the test, I recalculated my answers. Once I had some confidence in the outcome, I slept for 3 straight days, except for eating and washing up. I did nothing but sleep. My parents were busy with the company, so they didn't stop me, just left me a stack of cash to fend for myself. One day, as I headed to the supermarket downstairs, Joel was standing outside, hearing footsteps. He turned and looked at me, his gaze burning. "What are you doing here?" He stepped forward. Sunlight bathed him, and he looked dazzling. "Looking for my girlfriend. Time to start dating. It's not underage anymore." I blinked. "What are you talking about?" He laughed and gently tapped behind my ear, even with my hair covering it. His fingers landed right on my hearing aid. "I know you wear a hearing aid. Don't tell me you're backing out now?" He grit his teeth, like he'd bite me the second I admitted it. I mumbled, "No." He straightened up and cleared his throat. "Good. Then let's go." First date. The boy smiled. Bold and brilliant. Chapter 15. After the scores were released, our homeroom teacher posted a message in the class group chat. "Let's all get together one last time." My treat. Everyone had performed better than he'd expected. The group chat exploded with cheers. The time was set for 7 p.m. When I went downstairs, Joel was already waiting at the door. Seeing me, he smiled and grabbed my hand tightly. Once we arrived at the restaurant entrance, I pulled my hand away before going in. I didn't look at his face, which instantly turned dark. Someone asked curiously, "Class rep, you and Joel, that close? Why'd you come together?" I gave a perfunctory reply, "Not close." Joel looked up, eyes full of mock hurt. "Yeah, not close at all. We just made out for 30 minutes. That's all. And not just 30 minutes. When we finally pulled apart, there were actual strings of saliva. His pale pink lips were still flushed. Thankfully, the waiter came in with food, and everyone shouted to eat the teacher's salary dry. No one heard what he said. Chapter 16. After dinner at the restaurant, someone shouted that since we were all adults now, and it was still early, we should go to a bar for a bit since it was such a rare reunion. Our homeroom teacher, worried, decided to come along too. After some singing, someone suggested playing Truth or Dare. A few rounds later, the bottle stopped in front of Joel. He chose Truth and drew a card. The boy next to him read the question out loud with a big grin. "Do you have someone you like? And are they here right now?" Joel glanced at me. I instinctively panicked. Like the others, I tried to act curious, staring at Joel's face. But inside, I was freaking out, especially with the teacher around. If he found out we were together, it would feel a bit awkward. Noticing my reaction, Joel's smile only deepened. "Yes, I do." He didn't even hesitate. Everyone looked stunned. Even the homeroom teacher stared, wide-eyed, directly at Joel. Who told you it was okay to be in love right under my nose?" "Joel, do you want me to call your parents?" The others immediately protested in unison. "Come on, teacher. We're all adults now, and the exams are over. Thank you very much. If it bothers you so much, maybe you should leave early." But the teacher stayed put, still staring at Joel, waiting for an answer. Joel looked right at me and took a sip from his glass. "It's not a secret crush. It's a very obvious one." I quietly stood up, trying to escape to the bathroom. But just as my hand touched the door handle, Joel suddenly called out, "Baby, am I right?" I could feel a dozen eyes burning into my back. Just as I reached for the handle, I let out a breath of relief. I hadn't looked back. So technically, who knew who he was calling baby, right? I stubbornly opened the door. The next second, someone came up behind me and grabbed my hand on the doorknob. Heading to the bathroom? I'll go with you. The room fell into complete silence. Then, a wave of screams and cheers exploded. So the class rep was hiding something. I knew there was something going on. Selena, and you didn't tell me? I'm your desk mate. I should have had inside info. That last one was Linda. My ears flushed red. In my heart, I cursed Joel 100 times. His shamelessness had no limits. Then I heard a low chuckle near my ear. Joel grabbed my hand and flung the door to the private room wide open, then calmly closed it behind us. Inside, the cheers got even louder. After lingering in the restroom for a long time, and splashing cold water on my face several times, the heat finally faded from my cheeks. When I came out, Joel was leaning casually against the hallway wall. His features were sharp and striking. Even the messy dark bangs on his forehead carried an air of rebellion. It was too hot. He was wearing a plain white t-shirt. The outline of his toned chest faintly visible beneath the fabric. A simple silver necklace hung around his neck. As soon as he saw me, he naturally pulled a tissue from his pocket and began gently drying my dripping hands, bit by bit. Where is everyone? Why was it so quiet in the private room? Joel lowered his gaze, watching my hands. His Adam's apple moved slightly as he swallowed, and his voice carried a hint of huskiness. It was getting late. I told them to go home first. Let's head back too. I already paid. I nodded. Why leave so soon? He looked up at me, because someone seemed too shy. Then he straightened up and raised an eyebrow slightly. Selena, am I that embarrassing to be seen with? Shouldn't I at least get a proper title? There was unmistakable hurt in his eyes. I knew. The hard-to-please version of Joel had arrived. I tugged lightly on the hem of his shirt. He didn't budge. I glanced around to make sure no one was nearby, then tiptoed and pressed a kiss to the corner of his lips. He couldn't stop the smile that broke across his face. And then, pushing his luck, now make it official. So I posted a photo of us together to my social feed. My phone immediately blew up with notifications. Joel, now thoroughly satisfied. Come on, let me walk you home. Chapter 17. Marco heard from his mother that Selena had been admitted to Tsinghua University. He remembered how, at 17, Selena used to study late into the night, her weight dropping little by little. He couldn't stand it and insisted she sleep by 10 p.m. Selena's eyes sparkled when she told him her dream was to get into a top university like Tsinghua or Peking. At the time, he responded casually. Sure, if you get in, I'll celebrate with you. He knew even if he hadn't said that, Selena would have come to him first, full of joy, the moment she was accepted. But now, he was hearing it secondhand from his mom. Only then did Marco realize that ever since Selena transferred to No. 10 high school, she hadn't reached out to him at all, even when he messaged her asking if anyone was bullying her. As long as she choked up and said yes, he would have brought her home immediately. He had grown used to having Selena always trail behind him. But that day, she blocked him. She didn't rely on him anymore. It was as if she didn't need him at all. The thought made Marco uneasy. He still couldn't help wanting to see her. After she blocked him, he hadn't contacted her once. He was stewing, wanting to teach her a lesson. But in the end, he was the one who gave in. He called, offering her an out. But a strange male voice answered. So familiar, so close. But Marco knew Selena, obedient and conservative. In a place like No. 10, she wouldn't fall for someone there. Even Melissa said Selena was just trying to provoke him. But now that the college entrance exam was over, it felt like Selena had vanished completely from his world. He went to her house. Her bedroom light was still on. Marco exhaled in relief and knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. Chapter 18. He tried to keep a neutral expression. Auntie, I'm here to see Selena. He stopped mid-sentence. Standing before him were a pair of unfamiliar middle-aged people in pajamas. Who are you? Why are you in Selena's house? The couple frowned. Selena? This is our home. His face paled. No, this is Selena's home. They exchanged glances. Then explained. You must mean the previous owner. Previous owner? Yes. We bought this place over 3 months ago. Then where did they go? How should we know? They shut the door. Marco stood there, stunned. Selena moved out? And he didn't know? Why hadn't she told him? Where did she go? Was she never coming back? As he stood frozen, his phone buzzed with a notification. A friend had messaged. Check Selena's moments. She made it official. Marco opened her profile. Selena rarely used social media and almost never posted, so even though she had blocked his number, her moments were still visible. Today, there it was, a photo of her and a boy. The boy wore a white short-sleeved shirt and black slacks, dark fringe falling rebelliously across his forehead. He looked down gently at the girl beside him, in a white dress, standing under a sprawling banyan tree. They looked perfect together. Her caption read, "For the puppy who asked for a diary." Chapter 19. When Joel dropped me off downstairs, I had fallen asleep in the car. "Baby, we're here." I opened my eyes, and in the dim light, I saw his pale, slender neck, his Adam's apple bobbing slightly as he swallowed. Without thinking, I had the sudden urge to leave a mark there, so I leaned in and kissed him. His whole body tensed, and his breathing grew rapid. A few seconds later, I came to my senses. As I pulled away, I noticed a faint red mark left on his skin. His eyes were dark, intense, like he was about to devour me. I suddenly remembered a line I once read in a forum post. At 18 or 19, a boy's head is full of things he can't control. One spark is enough to set him off. I opened the car door and jumped out, ready to run home. Joel followed immediately and grabbed my hand, pulling me back. His gaze hadn't changed, still that same deep, dangerous intensity. "Joel, what are you trying to do?" He stared at me, silent for a long moment. Then he lowered his head and pressed a kiss to the side of my neck, returning the favor. Then he let go of my hand, just as I was about to turn and leave. A hoarse voice called out my name from not far away. "Selena." Chapter 20. I looked in that direction. Under the dim yellow light, Marco stood there, pale as a ghost. His eyes looked red, like he'd been crying. He walked toward me. "Can we talk?" I hadn't expected to see Marco again. After my dad quit his job, we moved away as a family. There were no more ties, no more entanglements. I sighed. There's nothing left for us to talk about. I turned to head upstairs. He stepped forward, his voice tinged with pleading. "Just a moment, okay? Selena, let me apologize, all right? I shouldn't have forced you to transfer to No. 10 high school before the college entrance exam. Melissa and I are over. I just thought you'd never leave. It was just a passing fascination. Melissa and I were never even serious. It's over now. Let's get back together, okay? Come back. We can be like before." Chapter 21. Marco has always been proud, arrogant to the core. I had never seen him with such hopeful, pleading eyes. "We can't go back, Marco." I didn't want to listen any longer. I tugged gently on Joel's sleeve. He looked down and ruffled my hair. "Go on upstairs." I nodded and walked away. Behind me, Marco tried to follow, but Joel grabbed his shoulder and held him back. I heard the sound of them scuffling behind me, but I didn't stop walking. What was there to worry about? This was the same sharp, ruthless boy who once fought off 10 guys in a back alley. Still, I caught fragments of their conversation. "You think you matter? Selena and I grew up together, you know?" Joel's voice came, cool and flat. "Oh, so what? I'm her boyfriend now. You want to talk childhood sweethearts?" Then Selena and I. The elevator doors closed. I couldn't hear the rest. Chapter 22. Marco didn't say another word. The corner of his lips was already bruised and swollen. That guy really didn't hold back. He heard Selena upstairs on the phone with Joel. Her voice was soft and gentle on the other end. "Are you hurt?" That's when it finally hit him. Selena no longer cared about him. There was a time, after a fight with some guys, he had gone to Selena's place instead of home. Afraid his mom would nag, she had carefully cleaned his wounds with a cotton swab. Does it still hurt? He used to believe that, no matter what, Selena would always be there when he turned around. So sure of it, so arrogant. But in the end, after leaving First High, Selena had let everything go. She had a new boyfriend now. He recalled the day Selena left first high. Her stubborn back turned away. And her bruised ear after being hit by a basketball. A friend had sighed and said, "Aren't you afraid she won't come back this time?" He'd scoffed inwardly. Selena's dad worked at his family's company. Her home was just a few streets away from his. Everything about her was tied to him. It was just a transfer to another school. How could she not come back? Back then, at sunset, his friend had said, "Marco, your childhood sweetheart might just become someone else's fated one." He hadn't listened. Now looking back, it all felt like a cruel joke. The moment he had proudly declared, "Childhood friends can't beat a destined lover." His childhood friend had already become someone else's destiny. Chapter 23. Joel and I got engaged the summer before our third year of college. On the day of our engagement, Joel's parents showed up as well. It was my first time meeting them since we got together. Joel had only ever mentioned growing up with his grandparents in the old house. About his parents, he once said they divorced when he was 7, and nothing more. Joel's mother had just returned from abroad, elegant and poised. His father, from the moment she appeared, never took his eyes off her. Then my mom approached and said, surprised, "Wait, aren't you Ruby, the lady who used to live upstairs?" That's when I learned. Joel's family used to live in the apartment above ours. After his parents divorced, he moved away. Later, that apartment was put up for sale. And little by little, I forgot about the boy who used to live upstairs. Then the Marco family moved in. I got used to going upstairs to find him and play. I suddenly remembered, wasn't there once a little boy upstairs who would use his allowance to buy me candy? "If you eat my candy, you have to marry me when we grow up." The boy's childish voice echoed in my mind. I looked at Joel in surprise, and then I remembered that day. When he fought with Marco, he had said, "If we're talking about childhood sweethearts, it's me and Selena. I knew her long before you even showed up." So it was true, and I remembered what he said that first day we met after I transferred schools. "Thanks, wifey." He had said it with such boldness, smiling wide. Chapter 24. After the wedding banquet ended, I received an anonymous gift, a property transfer agreement. Marco's signature was already on it. After I started studying at Peking University, Marco came looking for me a few times, but Joel guarded me tightly, and I refused to see him. He could only wait outside my dorm building, night after night. Later, I heard he went abroad and got caught in a shooting. He injured a leg. Melissa, on the other hand, often asked about Marco in group chats. Her college entrance exam scores hadn't been great, so she used her dance background to get into an arts college in the South. Not long after, she dated several rich second-gen boys, but every relationship ended in failure. She tried to reach Marco overseas, but he never responded. Joel came out of the bathroom wearing only a towel around his waist. He glanced at the signed agreement and let out a mocking laugh. Still not giving up. Huh? That document was definitely an eyesore. What was he trying to do? Giving me this? I tossed it into the trash, then wrapped my arms around Joel's waist. He lowered his gaze, his eyes darkening. "Baby, feeling needy?" "Me? We've been doing this for a while now. Why is he still such a pervert?" After a long silence, I curled up in his arms and changed the topic. "So, did you recognize me the first time you saw me?" Joel looked down and ruffled my hair. "Yeah." "Then, is it because of the past that you fell for me?" He countered immediately. "No, Selena. My feelings for you, it's childhood sweetheart. Yes, but also love at first sight." The music in the living room was still playing softly. Right now, I'm filled with gratitude. After all life's twists and turns, it's still you. My fingers slipped under Joel's shirt, resting against his abs. He took a deep breath and grabbed my wrist, then leaned down and kissed me. His kiss grew deeper, more urgent, until I wrapped my arms around his neck. He stood up and laid me on the bed. My wrists were pinned above my head. His kisses trailed lower, from my neck to my collarbone and beyond. His hot breath mingled with a low, husky moan. My body softened uncontrollably. I struggled to take off my hearing aid, my last act of defiance. He leaned close to my right ear and chuckled softly, as if seeing right through me. Then, without restraint, he let out deep groans right by my ear. Even with only one ear that could hear, it still felt like the sounds in this room were far too loud. The night was still long. Chapter 25. After graduation, Joel and I officially registered our marriage. When we came back from our honeymoon, my parents bought a townhouse in the suburbs to enjoy their retirement. They were worried that movers might damage some of their old things, so they insisted on moving everything themselves. On moving day, Joel and I went along to help. One of the boxes in my mom's hands, its bottom damp and worn, suddenly gave out. Everything spilled across the floor. I stepped forward and realized all the items were my old high school books. My fingers paused on a leather-bound class yearbook. Almost involuntarily, I opened it and flipped through a few pages. Each one was filled with blessings from my classmates at No. 10 High. Some wished me success in the college entrance exam. Some hoped I'd get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Others simply wished me happiness. Below that were their personal dreams. Half hoped to become rich and beautiful. The other half wanted to become celebrities or pop stars. My fingers landed on the last page. It was Joel's. Back then, everyone was passing their yearbooks around, scribbling messages for one another. The classroom was a total mess. I was too busy writing notes and contact info in others' books to go through each page of my own. So this was actually my first time seeing Joel's message. His handwriting was just like him, bold and unruly, each stroke full of defiance. Name, Joel. Height, 189 centimeters. Home address, unknown. His message for me was simple. Hope you get into Qingbei, Tsinghua or Peking. And at the very bottom, under future wish, he had written just 2 words. Marry you. Bonus story, Joel. Chapter 1. Joel never told Selena. When she stood at the podium introducing herself, he looked up and saw her instantly. Those familiar features, and that soft, clear voice. Hi everyone, I'm Selena. In his memories, a little girl in blue overalls followed behind him. My name's Selena. Later, they grew close. He spent all his allowance buying candy for Selena. He once said, "The candy I buy is for my wife to eat." Even as a child, he vaguely knew that a wife was someone you spent your life with. Selena said, "Then I'll be your wife." Thanks to him, 6-year-old Selena got a cavity just before losing her baby teeth. Watching her now in her dark red plaid skirt and white school shirt, he fell for her all over again. The corners of his lips lifted uncontrollably. My wife came back on her own. Someone noticed his expression and stared, shocked. He shot them a glare and slumped onto the desk, pretending to sleep. He didn't expect Selena to be seated right in front of him. He could hear her chatting with Linda, and even smell her scent. After school, he didn't leave. He waited until Selena finished reviewing her notes. He knew she'd wake him up. Linda had told her the school would lock the gates. Sure enough, he couldn't hold back. Seeing her face so close, he smiled and said, "Thanks, wifey." Then, seeing her stunned expression, he smirked and got up to leave. Chapter 2. Back home, he dreamed of his childhood. At age 7, he and his mother returned home to hear his father's voice, accompanied by another woman's playful laughter. Then came the sound of that woman begging in fear, and his mother's furious screams. His father's angry apology turned into violent yelling. He ran inside to stand in front of his mother, trying to protect her. Instead, his father tossed him into a room and locked the door. Outside, things were being smashed. Eventually, everything went quiet. It was Selena who pushed open the door. She hugged him, curled up in a corner. She brought candy, her favorite back then. She didn't understand what happened, but she knew, whatever it was something terrifying to any child. That evening, his parents returned, both holding red booklets and several documents. His mother, red-eyed, packed her things and booked a ticket abroad. His father scoffed and left with his secretary wrapped around his arm. The house was left to him alone. That night, his grandparents came to take him back to the old family estate. He sat in the car, trying hard to remember the road home. But by the next morning, he had already forgotten. Later, he tried to return, His grandparents, thinking he was looking for his parents, gently stopped him with a sigh. But he wasn't looking for them. He was looking for Selena. He knew. He'd been abandoned. Chapter 3. Haiching was huge. So big that even searching by memory every week, he couldn't find his way back. Haiching was small. So small that one day, he found Selena again. A childhood sweetheart. A love at first sight. Summer never truly ends. And you and I were always meant to meet again.